Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. My name is Brian Vitale, and joining me today, I have Josh Torres.
Hi, hello. This is going to be a new thing for us. Things behind the scenes have kind of not fallen apart, but a lot of the usual crew just happened to be unavailable today. Things happened, and yeah, even I am a little bit limited on time. So it's just behind the scenes. We're recording this an hour before we usually do, so it's just kind of it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, things happen. People have lives, and Adam is out traveling. James is tied up. Chow has a meeting. Other people who we asked if they wanted to come on just had other obligations. So it's going to be me and Josh just kind of carrying the mantle here for the Tetracast. We kind of discussed very briefly, like, should we skip a week or should we just go on through and plow through? We decided we'll just put something together. There is a lot to talk about, but this might just feel a bit different. The format might be a little bit more abbreviated. We'll focus more on news and less on what we've been playing. But we'll just see how this goes, see how this works.
Yeah,
We'll take your feedback.
it's a weird thing because it's one of those. It's like we can't really skip this week because a lot of things happen this week.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if we skip,
news.
it'll just like snowball in the next week, and then it'll like, will we recover if we skip? I don't know. Plus, we know that we know, or at least hope we know, that people like listening to this. So even if it's a bit of a different feel, you'll enjoy what we have to present to here for you guys today. So I guess let's just roll right on into it. Normally, on a start of a normal podcast, we would open up with kind of what we've been playing, which would be like new releases or classic releases that we'd get to, and we'd start out like that. This week, just based on the circumstances of the week, we might just kind of skip past that and go straight into news. I've mostly just been playing Elex 2, but I talked about that last week and don't really want to just go back to the well this week on that. It's a long game and I haven't had a lot of time to like dig into it.
Yeah, you've been pretty busy this week too, so it's just. Yeah, like on my end, I've been doing something a little bit more unusual. I've been starting to read the Tsukihime remake that came out for PS4 and Switch last year. There is a partial English patch out that I've been trying out, and it's been decent so far. But it's not fully done yet, and I'm just like kind of dipping my toes in it. I'll probably talk a little bit more about it in one of our non-RPG news sections later on, or news bits. But just a top head level view. This is one of the most recent Type Moon visual novel that has come out, and it's been a while since like a Type Moon visual novel has come out because they've been so focused on the Fate Grand Order mobile game. So seeing this, and I haven't read the original Tsukihime in years, like it's been a very long time. So seeing things like remade, like with like crazy production values for a visual novel, and seeing like how things change up in it has been a real treat. I haven't read a visual novel in a while, so it's been kind of nice to kind of just settle down and kind of play something that's not like active. You're just reading, So it's been cool. But other than that, I'll probably talk a little bit more about later. And yeah, that's all I've been playing for now.
I guess I will say that if there's one reader still playing Elex 2, go for the Berserker magic. I've found that it's overpowered, and it's helping me like not feel like so damn weak all the time.
What does Berserker magic do?
It casts fireballs from the sky, and then you just have to run around and avoid damage while the fireballs kill the enemies. There you go.
That's when I think of Berserker magic, I would think like it just puts you like in a rage mode, and then. Like,
it's interesting, but yeah, the Berserkers in the Elex in both games are like magic casters, but they also use like weapons and axes. It's an interesting take on the trope.
Yeah, that's something that's like everyone already has like a set like expectation when they hear Berserker in a game, or like what it does. So it's interesting to see it subvert the trope a little
bit. Before we go into just the news line items, I will just kind of call out a few of the features that we have up on the site from the last week. Obviously, a major discussion point of last week's podcast was the release of the Chrono Cross Remaster, the Radical Dreamers Edition. We do have a few guides up on the site about elemental weaknesses, about character recruitment, and about like an interesting twist on the ending. Obviously, spoiler warning, but if you want to read about that. We have that up on the site. Alongside the release of Chrono Cross, we did also talk about the 13 Sentinels release on Switch. And while that is mostly a re-release of the same game with some balance tweaks, Nathan Lee, who wrote the review of the Switch version of the game for us, did put up 2 guides for the Destruction and Remembrance mode for 13 Sentinels. So if you are making your way to that game, we do have those 2 features up on the site as well if you're interested. And of course, we've been still putting up some guides for some other games that were released in the last month, such as like Rune Factory 5 and a few others.
Yeah, and Alex has been really putting out some features for Chrono Cross as well, like talking about the new hidden post-credit scene in Chrono Cross. And who knows why they put it in there? Really, it's cause it's more discussion bits for years to come in the Chrono community. It's like, why did they put this in there if they already said they're not planning a new Chrono entry? Like, why would they do this and so forth? So nice to call to attention to that. I didn't even know there was a new hidden post credit scene. Like I thought someone mentioned it and I thought it was a joke, but I didn't know it was actually like real. It's like, oh, okay.
Alex also just beasted out a Radical Dreamers guide. I do think that he borrowed from like an old fan translation guide, but just kind of like made, quality checked it, made sure that it was correct to the new official localization for that. So if you're playing Chrono Cross or 13 Sentinels, we have some features up on the site if you're interested to have alongside your playthrough. All right. So the big headline of the week, within less than a day, less than 10 hours, I think, after we recorded last week's podcast. I forget if we mentioned this on the podcast, but we were talking about the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary event. Now, I remember Adam saying, I forget if this was in the recorded session or not, that he wasn't expecting much. He felt like it might be some merch or some fan service or things like that. But we thought that it might be pretty quiet, that there wouldn't be anything to be excited about. Well, turns out they announced Kingdom Hearts 4. They just went ahead and did it, the Mad Lads.
Yeah, that's crazy. It feels like it even said as much now. Like it's an early announcement. We just wanted to get it out there before anything leaked. But even then, it's like, man, it feels so early, but it's out there and it looks very different. And a lot of talk. What did we see in this Kingdom Hearts 4 reveal, Brian?
So as far as I know, I haven't checked recently, but like the trailer itself hasn't been officially uploaded from like a Square Enix or a Kingdom Hearts account. It's just been clipped from the stream event. And of course, other like publications like GameSpot have reshared the trailer or things like that and clipped it out of there. So it's it's there to watch. It's not hidden. It's just interesting that this is the manner in which they've announced it, where it's kind of buried within a timestamp of a stream or shared by other publications, because obviously this is a big deal.
So it was nice. It was for me, like it was nice, like waking up and I was like, oh, there's a Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary announcement. I did not know Kingdom Hearts 4 was going to be announced here, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just go through it and maybe skim the parts that I don't really care about, like the epilogue to like the mobile game that's shut down. Like I'm like, okay, if that's gonna come out, we already knew that's gonna happen. So and then there was another game that we're gonna talk about in a bit after this. But then like at the final one, I was like, oh, it's like, and like I didn't even expect like this to be Kingdom Hearts 4 at all. I thought it would be like another spin-off with like another name of like final, beginning, chapter, epilogue, prologue, type deal. And I'm like, I did not, it didn't even like occur to me, or I didn't even think about like, oh, this is the next numbered entry in Kingdom Hearts, because I would expect that to be like in another 2 or 3 years, at least announced. So
maybe our expectations were just set in such a place by what happened between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3. Now I know there were Dreamed Up Distance and Birth by Sleep, but still. And I guess just to correct myself, I guess the Kingdom Hearts YouTube account uploaded a 8-minute video, but it still has the Missing Link mobile game and the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement like strung together, with the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement listed. It's called just the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary announcement trailer, like you said. So that's the other part, is that they did announce Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. I hope I have that right.
Yeah.
Which is a mobile game that takes place in the Cad Scalum. I hope I pronounced that right.
Add Calum into the real world. And I guess before we talk about more Kingdom Hearts 4, since we're already here in Missing Link, This game looks to be like it's not gonna have like the visuals of the old one, like the cartoony chibi graphics. This one looks much like a more traditional Kingdom Hearts game graphically, and looks to play a lot like those, not like how previous Kingdom Hearts entries and mobile were. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it looks neat. I don't know exactly how it's gonna be structured. Obviously, it's gonna be a free to play mobile game. I imagine it's to be some gacha element to it. Who knows how that'll manifest, whether it's like different keyblades or different characters. It looks like you can like create your own custom character, or I don't know. I have no idea. These are actually like existing characters.
And
But
it's like
it looks neat.
if we were in any other paradigm, I would make like a joke here and glibly be like, "Oh, guess we better play this because it's going to have some critical information that you can't skip in order to understand the story." But the thing is one thing that this 20th anniversary event has seemingly tried to really share and nail down is that this is the start of a new arc, that this is the end of the Dark Seeker arc and the start of a new storyline. But the missing link, it's you could sit here and speculate forever. It's like, is this linking the two arcs, or is this specifically, it takes place in a major location from the first three games, or really just the third game in the mobile game. So is this going to be necessary to understand what's going on in Kingdom Hearts 4? I don't know.
I feel like almost absolutely. Like
knowing this series.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a crucial thing. Like even the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer reveal already has like a key character from the mobile game in it, so we'll get into that. So this trailer opens up with obviously, if you haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 and Melody of Memory, like this game is a sequel to both of those. So if you still want to have it as some sort of like surprise, I guess,
and
like
the Remind DLC, I think you need that for public context as well. Are you caught up with Kingdom Hearts? Because if you're not, this trailer might be confusing. It's still a little confusing if you are.
I guess spoiler warning here, because that's just how it is in this series. So we have Sora, a much more grown up looking Sora, wake up in like this modern world, and this was already shown at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and the Remind DLC of him getting transported to this modern Shibuya world. And we didn't know the name of this world until like the Melody of Memory's secret ending, I believe. And they called it Quadratum, and then sure enough, in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, they yes, he's in Quadratum. So, and then he's been once again asleep for several years. I think 7 years, they say in this trailer. He's been asleep on this couch, this modern looking couch at someone's apartment. And so
7 days, not 7 years.
7 days. I don't know why I said 7 years. That'd be really good, actually. So he's been asleep for 7 days, and his look is a much more different because I don't know. They just definitely upgraded the look to him, and he gets woken up by this mysterious blonde female character, and then people who have been either playing or have been catching up to the mobile game lore know that this character is important. She exists in there. I think her name is Strelitzia. I want to say.
So I went ahead, and you were a part of this tangentially, and like I've watched a chunk of the mobile game, like cutscenes. But the thing is like, even if you do that because you're invested or because you want to be in the know and you understand these things, a lot of the mobile game cutscenes from Union and Union Cross and Dark Road and I don't know what titles it's under now. It's a lot of it is kind of incidental and doesn't really seem to carry forward, but obviously this character specifically did. I know at a high level that they were like recruited by one of the masters named Ava, but I need to that was a while ago, and it's because it hasn't been factored into like the console releases or even the handheld game releases so far. I'm still a little bit foggy on exactly how Strelitzia is completely interfaced into the story, but basically she tells Sora that this world of Quadratum is full of life, but relative to the characters that we know and are aware of, it's more of an afterworld. So if you've seen the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3, you know that Sora has kind of effectively died, not died,
yeah, kind of like got into purgatory almost
because of using the what do they call it? He used that art too many times. There's a phrase for it in Kingdom Hearts 3.
I don't
but I don't
remember,
even.
dude.
God,
I don't remember. Yeah, I
we
don't
are not
remember.
we are not Kingdom Hearts experts. We need George here to like
Yeah, that's right.
the art of
Um,
waking or whatever it was.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yes,
See, it
waking.
came to me. I just needed to like just knock the cobwebs out of my head. And Strelitzia was also like Sora does get a chance to speak with her like ghost or her star when he's also like in another form of purgatory in Kingdom Hearts 3, like while he's being like rescued by the
Yes.
crew.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like there's no precedent for this or no linking or this is out of nowhere, but the fact that he ends up on a Shibuya like street and there's like gameplay, I don't know what I want to call it that. It's
I
like, is
don't know
this
if, like, I don't know. This feels too early. Like keep in mind, like all the post interviews after this, they said the trailer was shot in Unreal Engine 4, but they want to shift over to Unreal Engine 5 for the final product. So I don't know if like anything we've seen is like reflective of the final product. It's definitely like their aspirations, right? But
Mhm.
it's easy to like show like a very flashy sequence and like say, but you're not really engaging with it. Like imagine if like you did like the Kingdom Hearts 3 like climbing Mount Olympus scene, but without a HUD. You know,
Yeah. Well, if
it's sort of that effect.
they did slap a HUD on this, and I don't want to say they're like
Yeah,
lying or fibbing, but it's more just like this is their aspiration, and who knows what they're doing to like composite this together into this game. Like, is someone actually playing this on a dev kit, like in a playable state? I doubt it,
yeah.
and that's not me trying to be skeptical. That's just me trying to keep like expectations in check. That game development is tricky, and it's very very ugly until it isn't.
Yeah,
And this
it's
game
very early,
seems
you
like
know.
it's a ways out.
I'm sure we'll see like the maneuvers they did in that trailer in the final game, like the grappling hook thing, the grappling string they had for Sora there. So how this manifests in the trailer is heartless are they're still heartless, right? In the real world thing, are they still
I would.
heartless?
It's got the like the voided heart shape in its chest, so I'm gonna assume
Yeah.
it's still heartless.
See, I'm just like, are they even heartless at this point? But the heartless type creatures are starting to appear in this quadratum world, and you actually see like real people on the streets like fleeing for their lives. Some people are like
After getting
doing
shot with their cell phones.
yeah, obviously, yeah, doing the fucking modern thing of like, oh, I've got to get footage of this first for my TikTok or my fucking social media, and then I'm gonna fucking scram, So, and then Sora is like zipping through. He goes to the scene and there's like buildings like being thrown at him, and he's like kind of like going through them, and like it's all sorts of crazy, and like it's the big cinematic like battle. I'm sure this occurs very early in the final product, probably. Who knows?
Mm.
But it looks very slick, and of course the big topic on a lot of people's minds were, oh my god, he's not wearing his clown shoes anymore.
Nope, his
The
feet are
Sora,
realistically proportioned.
yeah, and this really shattered the worldview for a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans out there, which I get it. So but other than that, like a slick battle sequence of him, confronting this heartless. We also see at the very end, you see Donald and Goofy wandering through the darkness, trying to find someone, and at the very end, you see a blue flame behind them, which indicates that Hades is after them. And then that's it. That's the teaser for Kingdom Hearts 4 in a nutshell. It was a lot to process, a lot to take in, a lot for people to kind of speculate. Oh, I guess we should also mention before like all of this went down, they also showed like environmental shots before this all went down with Sora, and like one of the shots looked like a jungle environment, but then at like the top right corner, people are saying, "Oh, that looks like the foot of like a AT-AT from Star Wars."
Yeah, and
So,
it's people have been kind of wondering about like Disney owns half of the entertainment universe, like Star Wars, Marvel, and I know some people I've seen the like, oh, I hope that we're free of doing the original of the Disney linkage now. We can do original stories because a lot of people that's what they're interested in. But then that little teaser at the end, like you said, with Donald and Goofy, very much makes it seem like nope, Disney is still going to play a role, especially with like it's very very hinting that it's Donald and Goofy looking at the afterlife to find Hades. So immediately like a Disney movie connection there.
yeah.
Uh, I do like how, or not like, it's interesting how I feel like they went to the well again in terms of using the organization cloaks to disguise uh participants in the trailer again. At the very end, you see two organization members. Well, not the very end. Before you see the Donald and Goofy and likely Hades stinger, there's two organization members, and one of them is likely the Master of Masters, and the other one's likely Xigbar Luju, but we don't know for certain because it can be whoever the Nomura wants them to be, because he's writing the story and he can subvert expectations. And I don't know, I'm kind of glad that there's still going to be a Disney linkage. I know some people want it to move away from that, but I feel like
I think it's one of those things that's like, I think it's fine for Disney to still keep involved in this, and because they're very much at the heart of Kingdom Hearts. But I think people felt burned of how the Disney linkage really made Kingdom Hearts 3 like a more lackluster product, because of the way it had story pacing, and the way that it had to adhere to certain rules for certain worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom Hearts 3, you could definitely if you took a moment to actually look between the lines, you could see the corporate meddling in that game, and that kind of sucks in a weird way, because for some fans, oh, this could have been a lot more, but because of certain limitations with Disney, especially present Disney, this really suffered as a result. And a lot of people
it feels like just yesterday that Adam was talking about how he hated how the Keyblade Graveyard section ended Kingdom Hearts 3, how you go through all the Disney worlds and there's barely any original story progression there. And then when you get to the final area, you kind of go off okay, what are all the loose ends we got to tie up? And then you literally go from room to room, each with the correct allotment of characters, just kind of closing out and putting neat bows on all the different stories, first with Naminé, and then with Axel, and then with Roxas, and then with Riku Replica, and all that stuff. And it just feels very mechanical and very got to tie up loose ends. And so hopefully, to whatever extent Disney is integrated here, that it feels a lot more natural, a lot more organic, and not just you got to do your diversionary romp through the Disney worlds, or to the Pixar worlds, or the Star Wars worlds, or the Marvel worlds, or whatever it is, and then we'll let you go to the actual story. So hopefully it's more organic, but we don't know what sort of legal clampdown they're under for the Disney thumb and things like that. The only other thing I want to say is that I mentioned that the old arc was the Dark Seeker arc. The new arc is under the tagline, the Lost Master arc. So I guess kind of clear what that means based on the the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 and the stuff that's being pulled out from the mobile game. How long is this arc going to last? Is it going to be another 3 major entries? We don't know. But that's the paradigm we're in now. So still looks like Sora, Donald, and Goofy are going to be the primary trio of characters. We know that Riku's going to be involved in some extent from the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3. Whether Kairi will be involved...
Do you think they're going to keep Sora's current look, or do you think it's going to be just a quadratum only thing, and he'll go back to a more an appearance that more people are used to?
That's a good question. Off the cuff, I'm going to say that's a quadratum only thing, because some people thought, or maybe some people thought that oh, that's just Unreal Engine, but Kingdom Hearts 3 was an Unreal Engine, and they still kept his very unnatural, a very fitting look for what we had come to expect for him. So maybe that's a way that they'll kind of visually identify this afterworld versus the normal world. Saying the word world in the Kingdom Hearts universe is a bit weird, because every single planet is a world, but then there's the dark side of each world, and now there's the afterworld and the dream world. It's just
other just minor things, I guess, worth mentioning too, as fans have been digging up through the interviews and talking about what they saw. I guess there's a hidden cipher in one of the interviews. If you read the interview in a certain way, when you unlock some of the Japanese kata in a certain way diagonally, the hidden message Nomura has is Sigurd is the narrator or something like that, and Sigurd is a character that was only introduced at the very end of the mobile game or something like that. So people don't even know who Sigurd is, and he's narrating this.
Yep, I watched couple hours of cutscenes from the mobile game, and I've never met who Sigurd is. So
I think he only shows up at the very, very end or something. So people don't barely even know who this character is. So that's your typical Kingdom Hearts shenanigans, and that's all fine. I also like that Sora's new outfit. We're inching closer and closer to just this being the bouncer. If you remember the bouncer from Square Enix. Yeah, he just looks more and more like
Sora will find his missing dad.
Yeah, or he just becomes him. You never know. Yeah, it's looking more and more like it. So anyone who predicted that Kingdom Hearts is the Bouncer prequel, congratulations, you might be right. That'd be sick. And yeah, like who knows when we're gonna hear about Kingdom Hearts 4 again? It's a ways out. But here's what we have to nibble on for the foreseeable future. That's crazy that it exists. I thought it was a very early announcement. But,
yeah, and maybe we'll get a Kingdom Hearts expert George Foster on at some point in future weeks to see his crazy takes. I'm sure he's melting down. I'm sure he's still like recovering, even though it's been about a week.
Yeah.
Flying a little bit under the radar compared to the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement is that we did get a new trailer for a game that was announced just like 2 months ago that I had almost completely forgotten about. And that is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Did you remember this? I did. It slipped my mind completely.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like I was only reminded about it like when it actually when the news hit that morning. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing. Yes.
So like this was announced back in February as of course, a Fire Emblem Warriors sequel, a spin-off to Fire Emblem Three Houses. It even got a release date, like with its announcement. Like it's releasing on June 24th. And we had some speculation about like, is this just another alternate story? Is this like the missing golden path? Or I believe some people did speculate that this took place during the time skip that in the middle of Fire Emblem Three Houses. And we kind of got some answers to those in a new trailer that was revealed by Nintendo and Koei Tecmo just this last week. And it turns out that in this trailer, it seems to be another kind of alternate story set in the same universe where it really seems to point to the fact that in this story, Byleth is an antagonist and the new protagonist is a character named Shez, which is like a purple-haired warrior. Again, you pick the gender. And it seems like that Shez encountered Geralt. I'm getting my Witcher name screwed up. But was defeated by the Ashen Demon Byleth. And then basically, Shez meets up with the students from Garreg Mach. And it's just like, it seems like a very interesting, like, not a canonical path, not a golden route, more of a what if alternate, we're having fun, we're just shooting shit story. It's very interesting. I don't think this is like quite very out of left field, not what anyone quite expected to have just a random character just kind of show up here, but obviously they can't be mentioned in too like concrete of terms because they don't get any look in from the main game, which maybe for a Warriors game, maybe that's to be expected. They did kind of talk about how this spin-off will have class-changing systems similar to what Three Houses it implemented. So it'll incorporate some of those new mechanics in the Muso Dynasty Warriors sort of format. Otherwise, I really like Three Houses a lot, but I'm glad this isn't the missing golden path.
But what if it is? Who knows? You can never take it off the table until you've seen the final thing. You never know.
Yeah, but I'm also just kind of like not interested in this.
I would be more interested if they put it on a system where like this like the hardware could handle it. I like playing Muso games like in a very smooth frame rate, and like Switch doesn't have a really great track record for those. So I want to be interested in more of these Muso games coming to Switch that are only for Switch, like obviously Age of Calamity, obviously the first Fire Emblem Warriors game, but like it's just I just wish this came to like other hardware, and it's never gonna. But with the information that we have, Shez is a good name. Shez is a really funny name. I like that. Byleth being like the antagonist could, is kind of an interesting angle, but who knows how that'll. Obviously, like it would only be interesting if like they had Byleth be an antagonist from beginning to the very end, not like they became good again because we purified them from whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, or like this was just someone taking her form or his form,
yeah,
or whatever it ends up being. But I think my favorite part of this trailer really is just that I kind of like the the new art for all the familiar characters that is kind of like a different interpretation for the cast that we know. But other than that, I'm just kind of like, the gameplay just looks kind of what I expect. You have like team up attacks with the different lords from the main game. You'll team up with all three of them. Very fan servicey, but I guess I just doesn't interest me, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's understandable. I'm not really too interested in it. But for people who are looking forward to it, there's a lot to nibble on. And for people who wanted more Three Houses, but with a more action RPG take, and people who like Fire Emblem Warriors, then they're being served.
Mm-hmm. We have a news announcement here about some new add-ons being incorporated into last year's Super Robot Wars 30. I'll just hand this off to you since you happen to be present with me here today, and you can probably speak to this better than I can. Tell me about this Super Robot Wars 30 expansion pack that's being incorporated on April 20th.
Yeah, there's a lot to nibble on here. They had like a live stream go up early in the week, and it was like it was at a surprising times, like at 8 a.m. Pacific daylight time. So it's like, oh, okay, it's going up like midnight in Japan almost. So it's like, okay. Um, so for like the first thing they announced is there's gonna be a free update for everyone sometime in this upcoming week, like around April 20th, April 19th, April 20th, depending on time zone, and it'll add more characters from past games. So for people who like the original generation verse in Super Robot Wars, they're adding with his Grungust robot in the game as a playable character, and it's cool because it's a new design for which she's like 4 years younger, so he looks like more of a hot stud in his newer artwork. So that's a cool angle for him. They're also adding the protagonist from the now shut down Super Robot Wars Cross Omega mobile game, Asahi and Shot or Shot, I don't know, but they'll be coming with their Van Ayn robot. So if you guys played that game, which is only released in Japan, there you go. That game was crazy with its collaborations, and just the lifespan of that game was pretty cool to see and witness. So they're coming at a free update sometime next week. Along with them, in this free update, they are unlocking missions that were only previously for pre-orders and like early access people, early adopters. These missions like unlocked like the SRX and the Sidebuster robots. For people who bought in early, that now they're unlocking those for everyone, so they're no longer limited to that. They're also releasing
as part of the free update.
Yeah, as part of the free update.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. They're also adding a few new missions, like an extra chapter, and then missions to recruit the new, add-ons. And then the big news, aside from that free update, was they're releasing, or they have already released, a new paid expansion pack that adds even more series and even more robots. And for people who bought the season pass of SRW 330 already, you still have to buy this new paid expansion pack because that season pass only covered all the previous DLCs that have already come out, not this upcoming new one. So yes, everyone will have to buy in whether they paid for the season pass or not. I think this new paid expansion pack is like $25, I want to say. But the what you're getting out of it, if you're really into robots, is well worth it. What they're adding to this one is the Majestic Prince movie, which will have the Red 5 Plus unit alongside it. For the new or more SRW original generation add-ons, they're adding the Dai Gengar and Osen Ritter robots. And for people who played those games, these two robots obviously were really cool, had awesome characters. They were Sanger and what was his name? Sanger and Ratzel piloted these two robots. What they're most remembered for in those games is that they had a combination attack where Sanger's robot, the Daigengar, would ride Ratzel's robot because it could transform into a horse, and they had a combination attack where they Sanger rode Ratzel's robot, and then they did a really cool attack together. In this one, they have an interesting, unique angle to it where both of these units, the Daigengar and Austin Raider, are permanently attached to one another. Like their mounted form is permanent in this one, and they're counted as one unit in this. So this opens up a really interesting thing for SRW in general because they never had them permanently mounted. So they'll have like just an array of like new attacks, not just that one ultimate combination attack. They'll just have new basic attacks because they're now as one. So that's a really cool thing for people who played original generation.
I feel like I'm your worst possible co-pilot here because I am not familiar with any of these. But my main general takeaway when I just look and go over all the things that we've talked about with Super Robot Wars 30 is just how in the world did they make this happen? Like, how did they just pull from several dozen IPs and like the licensing and the rights, and like it just seems like for Western IPs this seems like this would never be allowed to happen just because right holders and like people wanting to make sure that they have control over their IPs and things like that. Or Super Robot Wars, it just seems like everyone involved is really gung-ho about sure, why not, like let's let people have their fun, let's have this ultimate crossover, and so that they allow this sort of thing to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like the Bandai Namco division for that handles SRW are like
it must be just like paperwork gods.
Yeah, like I don't understand. I still don't know how they got like a full global release for this game. Like I don't know what hoops they had to like go through behind the scenes because it couldn't have been easy. Like in Japan, I can like see like it's a more of an easier, streamlined process there because they get like the IP just has such popularity and like people who like get into mecha there obviously dream of like being into the series, so are like more like for a good chunk of them are more than eager to like kind of partner with them to have their works more exposed to that audience. So I don't know how they made global happen. Other series that are appearing in this new paid expansion are the Shinken Lion movie. I'm not the Shinken Lion. I never watched those, but that's cool for those fans. Maybe I should now. I don't know. I don't know much about Shinken Lion. And then for Getter Robo fans, they're very happy because the Getter Robo Devolution is appearing in this one, and that's before Getter Robo Arc, like that was the newest Getter Robo anime series. The Getter Robo Devolution was it's still fairly old now, but one of the more recent Getter Robo series to have come out, and that's very cool for them. There's like I think I don't know if they appeared in the mobile game, but this is definitely the first time they appear in the console game. So that's awesome. And I think what a lot of people were really happy about are these next two ones. These are old units that have been in SRW before in their console entries, but they have like brand new forms. So like for they're adding the Scope Dog from Votom's back in. People love Votom's in this community. So they're very happy about this because it's a brand new form of Scope Dog that just decked out with like it has a lot of weapons and are like fully decked out arsenal. It has like almost like a backpack almost. So that's coming back in a brand new way. And Dankuga is coming back, but it's not just the Dankuga. It's its ultimate form, the ultimate Dankuga. So it's kind of like its final form that's all fully powered up, and that's coming back. That's very cool. And more additions to this paid expansion pack. They're adding 3 new attacks, not for every unit, just like a total of 3 new attacks. So 3 units will be getting new attacks. The 3 units are Blue 1 from Majestic Prince. It'll gain like its awakened form for the movie for that attack. The SRX will be getting a new attack that was like featured like in a manga that it appeared in. So that'll be really cool to see in motion. And the main protagonist is like upgraded robot. The Huckabine 30th will be getting a new attack as well. And this expansion pack is now available for purchase, but only set 1 of it, and then like and then set 2 of it, like the rest of the content will come out at the same time as the free update units. So like around April 19th to April 20th. the set 1 of the expansion pack is just like items that you get for free for purchasing it. It's not really like actual content. Like all the beefy stuff is not going to be till this upcoming week, where all that content drops.
Right, and then the April 20th date that's assigned to it.
Yeah, and they said that this will be the last planned content update for the game. So after this, that's it for SRW 30, and they're probably working on the next Super Robot Wars game as we speak. And
but you've already even without all these updates, you said you put like 100 hours into this. So this thing is just packed.
Yeah, this game is gigantic, massive. But like a normal playthrough is easily going to be over 100 hours. So even without all the DLC stuff, like you still have a shitload of content. Mm-hmm. This game is just filled to the brim. It is really cool, really cool.
Well, I've been obviously paying attention from the sidelines about the updates that you and Kite have been like tracking, like all the different times that they add characters from different IPs since its release last year, and it just seems like it's doubled. I don't know if it's literally doubled, but it feels like it's doubled. Like
that's double, but that definitely is getting there. It's like maybe 40% more, like with all the additions, and that's already on top of a very stacked roster. Mm-hmm. So yes, so there you go.
So if you're a completionist, you'll just be playing Super Robot Wars 30 until the end of the year.
Yeah, that's it. So that's awesome. That's really cool. I can't wait to see like all this show up and seeing all their attack animations and all what skills they have, and I can't wait to. I wonder when they're gonna announce the next new SRW thing. I wonder if it's gonna be like later this year or early next year. Who knows, man? Those people are awesome. Every part of the team, like the art people, the writers, especially the localizers, just working their magic and trying to somehow get this to a global audience and make it make sense. Crazy.
Yeah, the fact that they picked this entry to be the worldwide released entry, just the aspirations that they had, even though like some of these, like you mentioned, have only appeared in unlocalized mangas or on spin-offs that haven't been officially released in English. The fact that they're still saying like we're going to do it anyway is, commendable.
Yeah.
Right, a couple sales updates here, followed by a couple either delays or new release dates. So we'll just kind of rattle these off and go through. Scarlet Nexus, a game that was kind of a surprising hit last year, has sold over 1 million copies, while Game Pass has helped it reach 2 million players. Obviously, this is interesting for two reasons. One, Scarlet Nexus, I remember when there was people that were looking at like Steam launch numbers or things like that, thinking that it had absolutely bombed, or that it should have launched with Game Pass. Because remember, it didn't launch with Game Pass, but people, I think James was one of the most ardent people, like, yeah, it'll come to Game Pass eventually, which ended up being true. So this is interesting just on a general count, because we're kind of in this paradigm now with the growth of like subscription services like Apple Arcade and Game Pass, and I'm sure, and I guess you could even say potentially PlayStation's new initiative, even though that won't have new games right away, is that what will be in this place where we have to talk about copies sold versus players played as games end up being.
It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, and I think both of these numbers, not a business expert, but based on how this game launched as a new IP, how people were concerned that it was kind of slow out of the gate, the fact that it had 1 million copies sold and reached 2 million players through Game Pass, despite not launching on Game Pass originally, just well earned, and hopefully this means that this is potentially the start of a new IP, a new series, and isn't a one-off, because it had some good promise. And we've talked about this game kind of at length, not yet this year, but last year during like our end of the year stuff and after the game released, as kind of being like a game that didn't nail the landing, but had a lot of promise and a lot of interesting ideas. So it's good to see that's done well.
It is really weird because they're still supporting that game to this day too, and they keep marketing this game like there still has a healthy marketing cycle for this game, like way after release. It's kind of nuts. Like they obviously had the Tales of Arise collaboration, but then now they're releasing, now they're releasing like a brand new demo for this game, like a story demo, like that supposedly does a better job showcasing like good parts about this game. Yeah. which is nuts to think about. They really, really, really want this game to find an audience, foster an audience, and like kind of get it to reach its full potential. Which I feel like this they have done more for this game that they have ever done for Code Vein. Which is another new IP that they created. But like the support between Code Vein and this game feel like night and day, almost. And I'm all for that. I really hope that I have to imagine they're happy with reaching over 1 million for a brand new IP with no like. um, Obviously, this game doesn't have like share any similarities like any other Bandai Namco IP. Like there's just a brand new world and universe they've created, and hopefully they like all this support for the game means that they're pointing to a brand new sequel or entry for the series, because that's what I really, really want to see from Scarlet Nexus. And it feels good to support this game, almost like saying like yes, it's reaching this, because I had like this game blew me away last year because I had like no expectation for it, and like I was very thoroughly impressed despite the flaws here and there. It's hard for me not to cheer for this game because of like the positive experience I had with it overall.
It is very much like an underdog story.
Mm-hmm.
The other sales update that we had in the last week is that the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, another game that we thought highly of last year, has reached 500,000, 500,000 copies sold since its release last July. So obviously, James is not here to talk about it. He's the one that reviewed this for us and has done the most discussion with this game. But good to see that even though that these games originally released on the 3DS in Japan, like 7 years ago, 2015, 2017, took a while for them to get officially released in English in the Chronicles pack. Looks like it's done very well for them. So good to see just for the future of that series as well.
Yeah, I have to imagine like they have to be working on a new Ace Attorney game somewhere in Capcom, right? Like that. I hope so.
So I've not played an Ace Attorney, but if I know correctly, this means as of this release last year, all the games have been localized except the Miles Edgeworth games. Is that correct?
It's like the first Miles Edgeworth game I think that got localized, and I think the second Miles Edgeworth game didn't.
Okay.
I think that's how it went. But I think it pretty much we're caught up at this point. Besides that, for localizations on Ace Attorney, but I have to imagine, hey, they're really bringing this like on a global scale now. And now that you mention it, maybe that's the next logical step to take is, hey, localize those those Miles Edgeworth games like in a bundle like this.
Yeah, get them on Switch, get them in a convenient because I assume they're all locked to DS or 3DS. So yeah, that'd be a potential path forward.
You're not wrong. Now that I think about it, I totally forgot they didn't localize. Like I think the second one, I think they did for the first one. I can't remember. I guess that would be the next logical step. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So Ace Attorney Investigation Miles Edgeworth did release in the West for DS. Ace Attorney of Investigations 2 did not. So we got okay.
The first one is a fantastic. I love Miles. He's a great character.
Here is a delay announcement. I think it's the second of its kind for this title. This is the next gen version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. So we've talked a lot about specifically Cyberpunk in the last year. We've kind of almost mocked the roadmap they had about the continuous updates and improvements. But alongside the Cyberpunk next gen update, CD Projekt was working with Saber Interactive to get a next gen update for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which was supposed to be released in some point in the second quarter of 2022. However, CD Projekt has announced that the next gen update for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is being delayed indefinitely, basically meaning that it's no longer has a stated release window. And not only that, but they are bringing the development of that version in-house, so no longer working with Saber Interactive. And this is the second delay of this, as it was originally supposed to release late last year. It got delayed once in October and delayed once again. So this is coming off the heels of not that long ago, 3 weeks ago, they announced that there was a new Witcher project in the works in the partnership with Epic Games, using the Unreal Engine, not using the Red Engine that Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk had been developed under. So it seems like it's just kind of another, like, I don't want to say it's bad news, but just CD Projekt is trying to get their ducks in a row as they transition out of the wake that was Cyberpunk 2077's release.
Yeah,
And
they laid out like in their latest call, the earnings result. They laid out the production plans for 2022. CD Projekt. They mentioned they're doing development work on a Cyberpunk expansion. They that the new Witcher game is going to be Unreal Engine 5, which we've talked about. They're going to obviously further support Cyberpunk. And then as we mentioned here, they're still doing work on that next gen version of Witcher 3. They said one of these is development work at the Molasses Flood on an unannounced project based on one of our franchises. Another one they say is launch of a single player mode for Gwent, the Witcher card game. I
all right.
thought that had a single player mode, but I guess not. Okay. And then further support for both Gwent and the Witcher Monster Slayer. The Witcher Monster Slayer was that mobile game that had like augmented reality features where you can like kind of look at the. It was like almost like a Pokemon Go-esque thing, but for Witcher, I think, for mobile devices. And then obviously they have more unannounced projects in the works that they're doing work on those. So that's what they're hoping to do in 2022. So I imagine they're going to be fairly quiet aside from like the sort of cyberpunk patch here and there throughout this year. And
Yep.
see what happens next year.
And they basically say that they'll update as soon as they can. They thank their fans for their understanding. So, like you said, going to be a quiet year from CD Projekt outside of some cyberpunk updates. At least that's how things seem to be pointing to.
Where's the roadmap? We need a new updated roadmap.
Yeah. We got a release date for Eiyuden Chronicles Rising. So Adam was able to talk about this game with his preview opportunity a couple weeks back. I think we kind of speculated that it might be a pretty, a quick turnaround and we might see a release date soon. The release date for Eiyuden Chronicles Rising is May 10th for pretty much every console and PC, Sony, Xbox, Switch. We talked about
only going to be $15 as well. So people who don't want to spend too much, it's only be $15, which makes sense. This is like it's kind of like a Bloodstained situation where Circle of the Moon was like kind of like a stretch goal game, and Rising is sort of a smaller scope, prequel type of game, in a similar respect. So, $15 seems like hopefully a good price point for what you're getting in the game.
And I think it's also a good time period because, like, we talked about how April and May were pretty quiet. So, kind of just getting this slotted in May so it doesn't get drowned out by later in the year releases. So, I think it's a good place for it. And hopefully, it seems like it'll be a pretty breezy experience, just kind of whet our appetites while we're waiting for 100 Heroes. But Adam was reasonably positive on it, with the caveat that he hoped that the combat got a little bit more involved as you unlock more characters and more skills. So like I remember him talking about how he had just, during the preview opportunity that he had, unlocked the ability to have like a 2 attack chain because apparently you play through the start of that game just being able to swing once, wait. We'll see. And it won't be too long. I mean, that's less than a month from now until we're talking about how this game feels to all of us. Another release date for the summer. This is one that we knew was already releasing this year, and that is Metal Max Xeno Reborn. This originally released, I believe, in 2018. And then the Reborn, the original version of Metal Max Xeno, and then Metal Max Xeno Reborn released in Japan in 2020, but now it'll be releasing in the West on June 10th for PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC.
2-year turnaround. That's kind of uncommon these days, which is weird to say, but took a while. I don't know. Like I have to admit, I'm not really too interested in this game based on like the reviews of the original one. I don't know if Reborn like makes it significantly better or not, to be fair.
Yeah, Adam originally scored this a 6.
Yeah, so. and he wasn't too fun for a lot of things about it. So, and like the footage of this one is like, I don't know, is it going to be cool? I need someone to tell me it's going to be cool, I guess, for this one.
Well, we'll make Adam play it and report back.
Right, yeah. This is his punishment for not being here, is he has to play this game again, the remake. But I used to like Metal Max. I don't know if I like it anymore, but who knows? It still has one of like the coolest like premises, I guess.
We got another delay for another 2022 RPG, and that is Steelrising from Spiders. So this was originally supposed to launch in June. It has been delayed to September 8th. This is the Souls-like set into like an alternate French Revolution. Alongside the delay announcement, they did provide a new gameplay trailer, about 5 minutes of just gameplay snippets against different enemies and different bosses. So, as far as I understand, for Steelrising, this is the first time, at least I've seen a lot of extended gameplay for it. A lot of what we've seen so far has just been like renders and artwork. And the gameplay, I think, looks okay. It looks kind of stiff. It is a Souls-like, and it's not shy about that. Just the way like frames like the boss encounters and things like that. Very clear and obvious what the inspiration is.
I think the premise carries it. I think I think that's the most interesting part about this game is not necessarily like the gameplay is things that we've already seen in other Souls-like games. But I think the premise of the game is the thing that like makes me sort of interested, because the premise is like you take on the role of this automaton named Aegis, and she's Marie Antoinette's bodyguard. Again, the tasked to like go against the mechanical army of King Louis the 16th. Just like what?
Yeah, it's out there. I don't know if it's that like endearing or exciting though. It's just like
it's one of those it catches like your it's one of those things that like makes your head like turn the other way like towards it. Not necessarily that like you're bought in, but it's like you said what?
Like the automatons are fashioned into like the same, like they have like the powdered wig, only obviously it's not a wig, it's just a casing of a helmet, and like the enemies are designed as if as if it's like this weird. Normally when we think of like retro future, we think of like old Star Trek or something like that, or even like Fallout or Outer Worlds, where this is just kind of like, what if they had this technology back in the 1700s or so, or earlier than that. It's, I don't know. I really liked Greedfall, which is from the same developer. This, I don't think I'm vibing with like the atmosphere or the art style nearly as much. Not to mention that the gameplay seems a little bit like been there, done that. But
I will say if there's nothing coming out around its time frame, maybe I'll play it. Like if there's nothing else, like not to say that not to like shit on the game, because I'm not, because I it's one of those games like I would definitely give it a shot if like I had nothing else to play. Like I would be, because I'm a sucker for Souls-like games, and anything that kind of like any Souls-like game that like, at least makes me turn my head towards it, I'm willing to give a shot.
Yep. We got some new trailers for the upcoming remake for, I remember we committed this to memory how to pronounce this, but I forgot. Is it Live Alive or Live Alive?
Live Alive.
Live Alive. All right. I'm sorry that I forgot that. Anyways, so obviously the Live Alive remake was announced, and it's coming to Switch in the HD 2D format. So we talked about that when it first got announced. Alex put up a really nice feature for it as this kind of this white whale that we've never been able to play officially in English. So just a couple short trailers for a couple of the time periods that are present in the game from Square Enix, both in English and Japanese. One of them covering the prehistory time period, and one of them covering the Imperial China time period. So just ramping up the marketing cycle for the Live Alive remake. Remind me, did we get a release date for this?
This is July 22nd.
All right, so not that far away.
Yeah. So yeah, and like each Live Alive like time period has its like own quirk. Like in the one shared here, the prehistory one is a time where there were no words, so everyone kind of had to like make grunts towards each other. And there's no words, no like dialogue. It's more like gestures to each other. So that's kind of the neat thing about it. Like, how do you navigate through that in a time where like words weren't a thing? And then for the Imperial China one, you take on like the role of like this Grand Master. It's like, and then you're training. You have to choose a disciple and train them for like an upcoming martial arts tournament. And each disciple has their own pros and cons for that time period. So it's just cool to see more footage of this full-on HD 2D remake, and just seeing like, wow, they're really stepping it up for this.
I will say that
I wasn't expecting.
In general, this HD 2D, like I've voiced how I don't like some of the processing effects of those games in the past in Triangle Strategy and in Octopath. But here, I don't know if it's a different take because it's a different developer, but it looks just cleaner to me. It looks more like what I'd want a modern version of a 16-bit game to look like. I'm looking at because across these two trailers, even though they're like 50 seconds apiece, it shows a fair bit of overworld gameplay, of combat gameplay, of dialogue, things like that, and I think it looks pretty nice. I think it's kind of a little bit more refined and not quite over the top as like, oh, look how flashy we are, look how much bloom we got, or depth of field. It looks nice.
Yeah,
I like how this game is coming together.
I do. I think there's like a little bit of learning process now that like, okay, people are starting to understand like, well, what they like and don't like about HD2D, and seeing, like how they can manipulate the engine in a way that like makes them more stand out.
And yes,
like
we know HD2D is Unreal, but specifically this take of the engine.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, people have gotten over like novelty of it, and now like it's now we're like in the refinement phase.
Mm-hmm. This is something that was just announced, I think, literally a few hours ago. And this is a Japanese-only announcement, and that is that the Atlas RPG Megami Tensei Gaiden Shinyaku Last Bible is releasing on Switch in Japan via the eShop. This was originally a Megami Tensei spin-off for mobile phones back in 2007. Other than that, I don't know much about this. Are you aware of like... Yeah, take it away.
I mean, I haven't really played this because I think this was like only on phones, I believe.
Yep, it was one of those like that era of time games. back when like before the iPhone released, where whenever it was before Crisis, was that it? Like there was that period, and then there was that Pied Piper Xenosaga game. Like there was like the mid 2000s for Japanese phone games was a real bummer, because like we had no, like, as soon as that was announced, it was like, oh, we're never playing that. But apparently that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, this is really funny because like this is under the Gmode Archives project. Like Gmode Archives has a bit like taking on this mantle of porting like games that used to be only for phones over to like Switch, and like they started releasing some of them on Steam. Very few of them are in English. I'm not exactly sure which ones. I know there are like a few, but not a lot. This one that we're talking about is not like the original Last Bible game, because like people are thinking of Megami Tensei Gaiden Last Bible. This is Shinyaku Last Bible, because the original Last Bible was like for like Game Boy, Game Gear. It released to other. So I think it released in like the 3DS Virtual Console. So don't get them mixed up. These are two different games. So I mean that it's just one of those things that like that's really cool to preserve these games, and I just wanted to call that out. And hopefully one day, I don't know who would take on the mantle of localizing these, but I would like to see these games localized just for preservation's sake.
So last week we talked about the trademark of Tactics Ogre Reborn from Square Enix. Well, we have another trademark to talk about this week from Square Enix, and that is that Square Enix has trademarked Lenneth in Australia. And we don't like to talk about trademarks too much. It's a little bit like, I don't know, it's easy like headlines, but
yeah,
obviously this is coming not soon after, or not long after, I mean, the announcement of Valkyrie Elysium, the new Valkyrie profile game from Tri-Ace that was announced a month or so back. And obviously Lenneth was the added subtitle for Valkyrie Profiles remaster back on PSP, I believe. So does this mean that we'll finally see that Valkyrie Profile game brought forward to modern consoles? Maybe. It could just mean that they're re-upping the trademark just to hold on to it. You don't want to extrapolate too much from trademark filings, but still, it always kind of makes you wonder, like, what if? Because we do have the Valkyrie Profile Lenneth is that the one that has a the mobile phone version that actually like has updates compared to the PSP version?
Lenneth is the one who's on mobile phones. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But they never brought that anywhere else.
Right. Who knows? Yeah. Hopefully this is like the start of like something. People have been wanting Valkyrie Profile in any form, whether it's Lenneth or not, just in mobile platforms or not mobile, modern platforms forever. And so it's just hopefully like I will take this over Valkyrie Elysium, and if you can have both, then sure, why not? But hopefully, not only is this like a good sign, but hopefully this hopefully upcoming re-release of it to modern platforms is like a good one too, like a good port.
All right, and I wanted to make sure that I substantiated my earlier statement. Yeah, the mobile version of Valkyrie Profile Lenneth has new like high resolution artwork, high res battle system icons, options to skip the introduction, things like that. So it has like it is kind of in a way the definitive version of the game, but it's still just stuck on mobile. So and never got re-released on PC. Or I think there are ways to like use an emulator or something to play it on PC with the controller, but you kind of have to like look into it to get that to work. Not so. Does this trademark mean that it'll be released on Steam or something? Who knows?
I mean, yeah, let's see. Yeah, Square. I mean, at the very least, Square Enix has been fairly consistent um, on trademark stuff. I mean, yeah, they had the recent Tactics Ogre Reborn trademark. Yeah, at one point, Valkyrie Elysium, all we knew about it was a trademark. So, you know, the usually Square Enix trademarks lead to something these days.
What about Bandai Namco trademarks?
I don't know. That's a good question. Bandai Namco trademarks.
Well, they just trademarked Last Recollection in both Europe and Japan, and this is related to the Dot Hack series. But I don't know what this is.
We don't know. All they trademark are the words "Last Recollection" aside one another, and this is leading people to think this might be Dot Hack related because the recent Dot Hack GU collection was its subtitle was "Last Recode." So you know, that'd be really great. Like if this was a new Dot Hack thing, by the way, it sounds Last Recollection, it would probably be another bundle thing, and I imagine this would bundle the old Dot Hack games before GU. It'd be like Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, and that would be really cool. But it would make me question what they're gonna do because if they're just straight remasters, like I could personally tolerate it. But I know many people could not because the gameplay in that original 4 set of games is very dated at this point. And I know a lot of people would be very turned off by it. So I don't know what they plan to do with it. If I kind of hope it's more of a remake more so than remasters if it is pertaining to those games because the flow of that gameplay would not stand up to modern tastes at this point.
Yeah, it's always kind of an interesting feeling where you played a game when you were younger and you want to recommend it to new people because you have nostalgic feelings for it, but you know, like, oh, this is going to be hard to recommend, or there's going to be really like acclimating that you'll have to do in order to play it. I recently went through this when I had played Baldur's Gate games like back in 2019, the original games, and Adam struggled to try to get to play those because just like the gameplay just doesn't really hold up that well. I mean, that's always kind of subjective. Some people will say no, they hold up just fine, but you always have to go into games like that with a certain mindset to know that you're gonna have to acclimate to it, and that certain things that you've come to take for granted we're just not there. I'm kind of saying this generically because I don't know how the original Dot Hack games played, but
so basically the Dot Hack games played like an unrefined sort of like action gameplay, but anytime you wanted to use like an ability or a skill or an item or anything, you would have to like go like put up a menu that would freeze the gameplay and like manually select it through like menus, and then for it to actually happen, there's like no like quick like way to like kind of access them. So the gameplay would be very split up into freeze go type of deal. And if you wanted to do anything, you'd have to like pause the gameplay and select it from a menu. Yeah, and like the Dot Hack Fragment like MMO that came out that like retained some of this gameplay, like actually added like ways to access these things like more in real time. So if they added that into
the quick slot or something,
yeah, maybe that'd be okay. But still, they would. I feel like they would have to do some work to it to make it flow better. Hopefully, they don't do the thing like they did with the GU collection or re-release, where they kind of toned down the difficulty. Because like I like that the original games had like challenging boss fights, like the Scathe final boss at the first entry, like was legitimately very challenging, and it fit the narrative. Like Scathe is something you should be like afraid of, and yeah. So hopefully they don't do some weird like stealth balance tuning.
And this is all of course speculation on what Last Recollection even is. So you have 2 trademarks, Lenneth, kind of clearly what that's pointing to. What it means, we still don't know. Last Recollection, some hints of what it might be pointing to, but what it means we don't know. But still, just allow yourself to get excited. It's kind of cool to see that we're in a place where these things might refer to bringing some old games from our youth or from our childhood back forward to be enjoyed in in the modern times, even if they might feel a bit dated. But obviously, once any formal announcements follow these, we will follow up on that and let you guys know. And now we're going to wrap back around to something that you brought up at the very beginning of this podcast. So, by the way, just before we get into this, just thanks for hanging out with me here today. So it's kind of cool that we had like this interesting little back and forth and a different little framework for the Tetracast. So
this once in a while is pretty neat.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, kind of different. But there was one feature on the site that I did not call out right away because I knew that you would want to talk about it at length. You had mentioned that you were reading more visual novels, and part of the reason that you were spurred on to do that is because of an announcement regarding Type Moon's Witch on the Holy Night. So tell me, what is it about this that you want to share, and to the extent that you have started reading the old original novels again and have wrote a new feature for the site specifically about this?
So this is late last year, Type Moon did their usual end of the year live streams detailing like their future plans for like the Fate series at this point. Hugely popular. A lot of people like it, whether it's the anime adaptations or or the Fate Grand Order mobile games. A lot of people like the Fate series. So they do their end of the year live streams. They literally hold it like I think like a December 31st or something. And they laid out their usual plans, the usual Fate Grand Order of news, upcoming content for that game. They laid out a new like OVA for people to watch for the Lord Elmaloy, the second anime series that came out a few years ago, and new free DLC characters for the new Melty Blood Type Lumina fighting game. So that was cool. And then one of the things that we didn't know at the time would be so significant, let's say, is they were to commemorate its 10th anniversary. They were re-releasing Witch on the Holy Night, sort of like an HD remaster for the PlayStation 4 and Switch, and then they would have voice be fully voiced, and and they'll have like they'll bump up the resolution for that visual novel. Came out in 2012 over in Japan, and yeah, so I was like, okay, cool. And then out of nowhere, people started spotting. There's a new entry at the PR Times. PR Times is a site where it's basically the big news place for PR, Japanese PR on games. So like a lot of like things that are sourced on the site for Japanese news on Adam's end is from PR Times, because that's kind of like the central hub. That's like where Famitsu gets their news if it's not exclusive for gamer. Like a lot of like the big like Japanese gaming outlet sites, they usually hear it first from PR Times. That's kind of like the primary source for that stuff. So they put up an entry for Witch on the Holy Night, which is Mahosukai no Yoru in Japan, and they were showing off like here are the Japanese voice actors for these characters in this upcoming re-release. And like, okay, cool. And then it'll have a December 2022 time frame, and it's come like in Japan. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then it also mentioned that it'll have support multiple languages aside from Japanese. It'll have simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, and English. Like, wait,
and that's the Megaton.
It's like, wait a minute, is this a typo? Like, that's weird. No way. English for a Type Moon visual novel, like officially released in English, and that's for a lot of people that's insane. For people in the know, that's crazy. And then I was like freaking out about it for like multiple hours. Like I was like losing my mind, to be honest, because I'm so far deep into this rabbit hole that like this really means a lot to me. And I received a question because a lot of people saw the excitement from their mutuals over social media, whether it's on Twitter or other social media platforms on Discord, and someone asked me, like from someone who isn't really in the know, like you could relate to this, Brian, of like, what does this mean? Like, I'm not really into this like circle, I'm not really from an outsider's perspective.
Hey, I've seen
Like,
the original Fate anime.
that's
the
true.
extent.
You're right.
The one that
Well,
everyone hates.
okay, okay. Um, so like people are like, what does this mean? So and then that really inspired this feature on how the headline was like type wounds which on the Holy Night getting an official news is secretly one of the biggest announcements in gaming ever. And I don't I don't mean to over exaggerate that. Like to people who follow the visual novel scene and like have like seen like Type Moon in general over the years as it's grown in popularity, like that's it's not out there. Um, so I went to go on and chronicle like kind of like the history of Witch of the Holy Night and why it was so fitting to be like the first official English release for Type Moon visual novels.
Wait,
I talk
so
about
I just want to make sure I understand. Like, have
yeah,
none of the Fate visual novels been translated?
no, not
Oh,
officially.
oh,
They
I
have
thought they had been.
no,
Okay.
not Tsukihime, not even Fate Stay Night. None of them have an official English release at all.
Oh, that's interesting.
Their spin-offs have like Fate Extella, Fate Extra, like spin-offs that aren't the main visual novel that are made from other developers have been localized, but not like the main source material that these spin-offs
Or from.
sprout from. Yeah. So, which is still a really weird, scenario when you think about it. Um, so like people expected like, oh, she's like the Tsukihime remake should have like, where is that? And like, I understand that point of view for sure. And I agree with them. Like, I wish that got the localization announcement, but Witch on the Holy Night, being the first one to come to the West officially is like so fitting. And I went to go talk on about how Fate on the Holy Night is, even though it's a game that released to the public in 2012, way after Tsukihime and Fate Stay Night originally did back in 2000 and 2004, I think. Originally in Japan, like Witch on the Holy Night was written first, way before them. It was written back in 1996. It was Nasu's first novel, and it was never released to the public because it was every time he tried to get it through a publisher and get it published, it was always rejected because of page size count and a page size limit. Um, so that original script on Witch on the Holy Night still has only ever been distributed to his close friends. But it was his first story, and it got a remake in 2012 as a visual novel, and that's like the first time that people really got to see what Witch on the Holy Night was actually about. And Witch on the Holy Night is like a very important like piece of like story in all of like Nasu's works. Like when you watch Fate Stay Night, Brian, you would whenever they brought up like magecraft and magic and how it works, like Rin like uses gems, casts magic, and all of that. Like the foundation, like you get bits and pieces of like how it worked, but not exactly like you just kind of accepted it for what it is. Like, oh, okay, it's magic.
Is it officially like in the same canon, or just more like that's where the ideas came from?
The ideas came from it. I don't know exactly how the canon exactly works, like in between these, because like how like the time period that Witch on the Holy Night takes place in, like it kind of overrides a little bit with like the locations of like Tsukihime. So I don't know exactly how the timelines work, but the principles and rules are consistent throughout his work. So
okay,
like
I
the
like
foundation,
that more than rather than saying like, oh, this specifically happens in this order. This is first, this is second. It's more just like, no,
right?
this is just the foundation of the ideas and how I envision magic works.
Yeah. So
In his
that
work.
that's yeah. So all that stuff and Fate about like how magic work and stuff, like it's actually laid out here in Witch on the Holy Night of like this is how magecraft is explained. This is how it works in his works, and like the rules that they apply, that they create in Witch on the Holy Night, is then shared and influence in stuff like in Fate, in Tsukihime, in Garden of Sinners, and all of his other works. So, and I think that's really fitting because it's I did a Dragon Quest comparison. I'm glad people liked the Dragon Quest comparison because when I was like trying to explain it to someone on social media, I did that when I was like half conscious and I just wanted to go to sleep. And then the more I thought about it, the more I can like, I was like, yeah, it is actually pretty fitting. Like I kind of convinced myself into the comparison and then laid out like why it is sort of like Witch on the Holy Night coming in English is sort of like how if Enix decided never to localize Dragon Quest for 20 years, and then the first one that finally was theoretically brought in English was like a remake of the first Dragon Quest. So it's a pretty comprehensive article. I kind of laid out why this is so important and so cool to see, and as of the time of that features publishing and the time of this podcast recording, the Aniplex of America Twitter has acknowledged that it's coming out in English on their social media, but have laid out no plans on whether they're actually distributing it in the West officially themselves or not. Like they said yes, it's coming in English, but that's all they said. They didn't.
So it's not really been. It's all but announced. It's basically like yes, Witch on the Holy Night is being released for Switch. Yes, it's getting an English release. We don't know a publisher. Aniplex is saying yes, it's getting an English release, but that doesn't necessarily mean a Western release.
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I imagine the next logical step is yes, Aniplex themselves are going to localize it in the West because they did that for the Emiya cooking game for Switch last year. But that's the next logical step, obviously, and we don't know if it's coming at the same time as the Japanese release. Obviously, if it doesn't, I'm still going to play it either way. I'll just import it,
right?
Because the Japanese release will support the language on it. And yeah, I mean that's just if you're interested in all that, give my feature a read. I'd really appreciate it. It's definitely the sort of feature that is. It took. I was surprised that it got greenlighted by Alex. To be honest, I didn't think he would be he would okay it, but I'm glad he did, and I'm glad it seems like a lot of people have given it a read or checked it out. I'm very surprised that it got a lot of feedback on social media when we first put it out and published it and advertised it. And yeah, I'm just glad that people are excited for it. I'm excited for it. I'm very, very curious to see how it holds up, and I hope the localization is awesome. It deserves it, and it is such an important step to seeing more of these Type Moon's catalog, both back and future works moving forward. And if this leads to a Tsukihime remake localization announcement, that'd be nuts. I'd be so over the moon.
Over the Type Moon. Hey. All right. All right. So
we got our episode title. We did it.
Okay. So as at the time of this recording, Josh's Type Moon, Witch on the Holy Night feature is the top cover of our site. So just type in rpgsite.net and it's right there at the top if you're interested. And that covers us for this podcast. So I think that went pretty well. It was a little bit different, a little bit more casual, a little bit of a back and forth. Covered obviously the big headliner news for Kingdom Hearts 4, which if we had recorded our podcast last week, one day later, we would have looped that in as well. But
just one more thing to mention for people who because it is tangentially RPG related. Vanillaware has made 13 Sentinels and Odin's Spear. Just wanted to shout out that they're re-releasing Grim Grimoire to PS4 and Switch in Japan in July. Through the title is Grim Grimoire Once More, and that's a really, really neat game that originally released in PS2. Obviously, unfortunately, it doesn't cover the scope of our site because it's more of a real-time strategy game, more so than an RPG. It doesn't really have much RPG elements, though they're adding a skill tree in that game. So
that's all you need. Skill tree means RPG now.
Yeah, yep. But I just wanted to give that a quick shout out. That is such a cool game that not a lot of people played on the PS2, and I get it. I understand why, and hopefully, it gets a Western release and more people get a chance to play it. It's so awesome. It's so awesome.
All right, thanks for hanging in there with me, Josh, and everyone. Thanks for listening. You've made it to the end. Let us know what you thought about the format of this podcast, because it was a little bit different. We do enjoy reading any comments on this. Any of the news that we talked about this week, we do obviously have up on the site, along with the Type Moon feature, the 13 Sentinels guides, as well as the Chrono Cross guides and features up all on the site. You can follow us on any of the social media platforms. Just look for our RPG site on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And you can join our Discord either by the link at the top of our homepage or discord.gg/RPG site. Still a lot of people talking about Elden Ring. So if you're interested in discussing that, we have a pretty active chat going on at the moment about that still. And you will hear from us next week, hopefully with more of the cast members back. Well, we're not quite certain just yet. Sometimes life happens and people's, schedules get filled up. But you should plan to hear from us then. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Just let us know what you think. This is very different for us, and we'd love to hear from you.